Welcome to Uncle Jimmy's podcast. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation.
Good morning, everybody. Today we got a special guest on Uncle Jimmy's podcast. She's a new author. Her first book is coming 10/14/2025. It's a book of poetry. Theme is Stages of Grief. She's writing on her own. And I would like to introduce you, Meg Sullivan. You can follow her at M Sullivan Books, all one word, on Instagram. Meg, introduce yourself, a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Megan. I am a 20-year-old college student. And yeah, I'm coming out with a new book.
So we're all excited about her new book. So we're going to get into the interview real quick. First off, what inspired you to start writing your first book?
So I have always liked poetry. Back in middle school, we did a lot of poetry projects. I liked the whole rhyming thing. I tried writing songs. I'm not a singer, so we went into poetry. My father, who unfortunately passed away, was also a writer, which has now inspired me to actually publish my own pieces.
And your dad was a very talented writer, singer, jack of all trades when it came to the music and writing.
Oh, yeah.
So can you share a bit about the journey so far? What has been the most surprising part for you in writing your new book?
I think the most surprising part for me personally has just been probably just how therapeutic it is. Having to, even though it seems like work and you have to sit there and you have to write all the poems and you have to, get everyone entertained and listening and watching and waiting for it. It's still a very therapeutic thing for me to do just for myself, and I hope to bring that peace, therapy, and support to the people who read my books.
So obviously after the passing of your dad, you have taken your writing, you have taken your poetry to another level and concentrated more on, especially with the new book, Stages of Grief, where you're going to be talking about grief and many other things. But with the passing of your dad, you found it very therapeutic for you to write day in, day out?
Yes, absolutely. Pretty quickly after he had passed, I began just kind of like writing to myself and sharing it with my family. And then obviously knowing that he was a writer and unfortunately didn't get to publish his own pieces, I kind of wanted to do this in, his name. And
so how do you approach your writing process?
Honestly, I hate to say it, it comes to me pretty naturally. Any type of topic, I kind of just spin off of that. Sometimes I have to sit there on Google and, what rhymes with this and what rhymes with that. But I like to say that it all comes pretty naturally, and then I can be out anywhere, jot it down, add it to another page. And
so the good thing is, so you like to find yourself in, when you're writing, your specific habits or routines. Do you like to write alone? Do you like to write when Jared's around? Do you like to write when Mom's around or Sean? Or you just like to be by yourself and you get in your head and you get your book out and you just write? Or, do you, what's your specific routine when it comes to writing?
I think, again, it just comes pretty naturally. I don't necessarily have a routine. Sometimes when I'm struggling a little bit, I have to sit myself down and, focus on what the actual theme of this book is, what I actually want to show the world, what I actually want to actually talk about. Most of the time, I'm alone. I'm in my own thoughts, anxiety and OCD running through your head, everything's going at once. Sometimes I'll be falling asleep and something just comes to mind and I have to get up and write it down. Even if it's just a sentence or two and I kind of just spin off of that the next morning, anything like that. Yeah. So definitely most of those times when, you're alone with your own thoughts.
No, that's good. That sounds like a great routine. Instead of getting, bogged down and dragged down by others when you're trying to write, say if it's your mom or myself or Sean, or Jared, it's all coming right from you with no outside influence. Just thinking about, the stages of grief, and that can be a tough thing. And for someone that's 20 years old coming out with her first book, I think it's a great outlet for you to be able to put into words what you're going through, whether it's day by day, whether it's, every week, whether it's monthly, but it still goes back to, the loss of your dad, which was terrible. And, from all the things I've heard of him, he was a great man and, a Boston firefighter. We saw that at his wake and funeral with the whole town that showed up. The mayor of Boston showed up and everybody showed up. The community rallied around you guys, the fire department. So everybody showed up, and rallied around you guys in your time of need. And, that time of need is still here today. Whether people want to be here, whether they want to be present or shoot a text or a message. But, you guys are still going through a lot with the loss of your dad, which is tough. I lost my dad at 26. You were 18?
Yep, I was 18.
Yeah.
My brothers were pretty young. And going back to what you said, some people, say their sorries and they move on and, there's no checking in. There's, text messages. There's no showing up. So that's another big part of the grief process as well.
And that comes from whether it's your friends, whether it's family.
Yeah.
It comes from everybody. Some show up, some don't, some leave, some run away from the topic. And, and we're going to get into the topic of many things with mental health and all that in an upcoming episode with Meg and myself, because we're going to have Meg on quite frequently. She's actually pretty funny. And wait until you guys hear her when we don't have her on the serious side of things when it comes to her book. But
when we're not being too
when we're not being too serious. But, right now we're just going to focus on the book. And, where do you find inspiration for your writings?
I like to say I find inspiration in everything. Not to tease too much, but I have a few different books in mind. A lot of them will have different themes, just about life, love, grief, sadness, mental health, all of it. So I really like to think I find inspiration in a little bit of everything, no matter what the topic is, no matter if it's happy, sad, angry. I like to pull pieces of that just to, put it in my own words and give it back to the world.
So it sounds like, it's coming from you just being very authentic, whether it's, grief, whether you're sad, whether you're happy, but the big thing is that it sounds like every day your foot hits the ground, whether it could be a lesson you learned or a lesson, hard that you learned hard, that you still find it a way for you to write, a way for you to journal, and a way for you to get your message out there to the world now with your first book. And I think I just heard it here. I think you just broke it here on Uncle Jimmy's podcast that it's not just going to be one book, it sounds like. There's going to be many more to come.
Absolutely. Once this first book, gets out there, I definitely, would love to see, the community that I can build on my own. But I also, I have a lot of people say, oh, you're going to make money off of this? Oh, you're going to do that? And I can truly say that it's not about the money and it's not about being famous and it's not about this, that, and the other thing. It's truly about getting my words and my writings out there just to, at least make one person, not feel so alone.
Exactly. And that's a great point. I had that as you were saying, answering that if you could just, affect one person when it comes to grief and you could show them the process of how you grieved and how you went through it, that if it just changes one person's perspective of, hey, you know what, it may be a shitty day today, but it's going to get a little better.
Absolutely.
My uncle who was sick with cancer for the longest time, I used to take him to his, my Uncle Joe, I used to take him to his cancer treatments, and he always used to say to me, he'd look over at me and I would be all pissed off because my uncle was sick and my dad had died a couple of years previous from cancer, from the same cancer that my uncle had. And he used to tell me all the time, you're allowed to have bad moments, but not bad days. And that's one of the biggest things that I take in approach my daily things with that. Yeah, I may be having a bad moment, but it's not going to be a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle was going through cancer and he beat it. And I thought I was having a bad day because it was 7 a.m. and Dunks was taking 15 minutes to get my friggin' coffee. And he's sick and he's telling me, hey, you can have bad moments, but not bad days.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you guys can follow Meg at M Sullivan Books on Instagram. Go follow her. She's going to be teasing her new book there. She's going to be showing you some insights behind the scenes of what she's doing when it comes to writing her book. We're all excited about it. So, Meg, I got another question. What have been some of the biggest challenges you've faced while writing your book?
While I like to say, it's off the dome and I like to be authentic and everything, having to sit down and, write however many pages, you still have that writer's block where, you're trying to get everything done in this certain timeline and, you just want to put words on the page and then it, is just not what you want it to be. I think that's definitely the hardest thing that I've come to face with. It's not just kind of writing for fun. I want to put it into a nice long book where people can enjoy it. So, having those moments where, nothing's coming to mind or I need to fill this blank page, those are definitely those.
So you're not just, it's fair to say you're not just going to fill pages to fill pages. If when the book is released, you guys are going to get an insight to grief.
Mm-hmm.
Meg's going to go through it. There's going to be poems in there. It's a book of poetry, and you guys are going to be stunned because, like she said to you guys, she wakes up in the morning, in the middle of the night, and jots down a couple, sentences, whether it's one or two, and then when she wakes up, she piggybacks off of that, and she keeps going, and she's been putting in the time and effort to get this book out to everybody and write the book. But what gets lost in it with a lot of people, I think, is that Meg's doing this for herself because she's grieving, but also she's doing it for others that are going through grief as well. And as a 20-year-old, that speaks a lot of volumes to your character, who you are. You're going through it. You're grieving, but you're also trying to write a book now of poetry to help others that are grieving as well. It goes to show you how big your heart is and how much you truly care, not just about your family, but about your friends and everyone else.
Thank you.
So can you share a moment of triumph or a breakthrough that you experienced during the writing process?
Yes. I think the biggest breaking point for me, or breakthrough for me,
breaking point, you could say.
I was going to say, I just think a big realization for me was a celebration of life we had with some friends and family. It was kind of like a time to grieve, but also celebrate any and all of those that we had lost. My grandparents, my father was the most recent one. We have, grandparents and cousins and, friends and family who have their own losses. And I was able to read a few poems and pieces in front of friends and family. And, seeing, whether it was tears, whether it was joy, whether it was just like realization, I think that was like the big point for me to be like, wow, there's only 20 people in this room, but they all kind of have their own story and they are able to take that in their own way and kind of, learn and heal from that.
So yeah, that was your breakthrough and your triumph.
Yeah.
Where you were able to break through with a group of people talking about the loss that not just of your dad, but of your grandparents and, other family members, where you got in front of a group of people and you were able to express yourself through your writings with the group of people. And, that speaks volumes and amazement that you were 19 maybe at the time.
Yeah.
And got in front of a group of people, loved ones, which is great, but also to read a poem about the loss of loved ones. Yeah. In the passion that you have, I think, is writing about grief, about losing someone that you really loved, your dad, who didn't get published. He wrote himself.
Yeah.
That sort of springboarded you into wanting to get your name out there.
Yeah.
For your dad, which is great, which is an unbelievable thing type of dude to almost keep his legacy going. Yeah.
Just another M. Sullivan.
Another M. Sullivan, yeah. Exactly.
Just keep it going.
So we're going to ask next, can you give us a sneak peek into what your book is about?
Yeah, so like we have discussed, the general theme is grief. Not only just grief in itself, but all the stages of grief, denial, anger. I just plan on kind of going through a little bit of all the emotions, even, overcoming grief, even, getting to that point where you realize that, it's not all bad. It's not all terrible. You get to that point where it's like, okay, this person's, at peace or safe, or, there's a lot of different stuff that, involve loss, that revolve around loss. So, it's going to be a little bit of everything.
And like you said, some of the stages, denial and anger.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I lost my dad, denial, definitely, anger, definitely. Still to this day, almost 16 years later, it's almost a little bit of denial and anger that he's not here. Probably how you're feeling as well.
Yeah.
Just so much anger and denial, but you've taken that and you've transformed it now into starting your book and getting it out there. When you release it on 10/14/2025, it's going to be about grief and how you dealt with it, poems about how you dealt with it and how you got through it, and would it be fair to say you're still not through it?
Yeah, definitely. If I wasn't grieving still, I wouldn't be writing this book. And I also don't think anyone's ever done grieving. I could wake up in 10 years and, 10 years from now, I'll be 30. Maybe a kid's looking for his grandfather and I have to, go through that whole thing again. There's always going to be something, that reminds me of a loss or puts me in a position like that. And, I don't think anyone's ever done grieving. I think it's just learning how to cope with that grief.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a great point where you said that. You're learning to deal with it. You don't really ever get over it.
Yeah.
Because it's a loss of someone that you love so much.
Yeah.
Whether it was your dad or your grandparents, it's someone that you had cherished moments with that you'll never forget. But the good thing is that I think the saying is that a person truly dies when their name is last spoken on earth. I think it's something like that. I'll have to look at it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking
about. But when we talk about them, your dad or your grandparents or my dad, we're still keeping their memory alive.
Exactly.
And they're still here with us, and for those that don't believe in God or don't believe in spirits or anything like that, believe me, I feel my dad every day. Yeah. And it was funny this morning, for a lot of you guys that don't know, my dad, we used to get together on Sunday nights and watch Sopranos. And there was a gay mobster on there called Vito Soprano. Me and my brother Patrick, we used to call my dad Vito. And as I was filling up gas today, and this is such ironic that we're talking about this and that it just came to me again. We were filling up gas and I was filling up my car and I looked to the right and on the post was a sticker that said Vito. And it was like, there was my dad.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wasn't having a rough week. I was having a good week and things were good. And I was actually up early getting into Boston earlier than usual. And there it was and I was like, wow, small little things you don't think of that. My dad, which I think you feel the same way about your dad, is he's still in your heart where he needs to be.
Oh, yeah.
And you can still hear his voice saying, hey, Meg, don't do this.
Yeah.
Don't be an idiot. Yeah. Don't be stupid. But it's sort of
I hear him yelling at me to go to college and all that shit. And
yeah. And that's a big push where, you're not doing it, going to school now, starting school coming up. You're doing it because one of the big things, is that you told your dad you were going to go to school. You were going to go to college, and he wanted you to go to college. So you're going to do that. You're going to pursue higher learning, and you have that in your head.
Yep.
Where your dad is still pushing you, and you can hear him saying it.
Exactly.
And it's those small things that, with grief, can either make you smile.
Exactly.
Sometimes it can make you cry.
Yeah, it just makes it a little easier.
It makes it a little easier when you think about it.
No matter if you're smiling, if you're laughing, if you're crying, it can make it a little easier no matter what.
And even like me, 16 years later with my dad and still crying sometimes when I think about him. Like this morning, I almost had tears in my eyes seeing that because it's like, yeah, he's gone. But I like to often think of all the good times, all the great times we had, growing up with 7 brothers and sisters, my mom and dad, 9 of us in the house at one point, similar to you, Meg, with your mom and dad, 5 brothers and sisters. So you had 7 at one point.
There were 7 of us, yeah.
So you know what it's like.
Mhm.
And, it can be challenging, but the good thing is that you have a strong support system in your brothers and sisters
Mhm.
who are great. Meg has a sister, Brenna, who is the most contagious spirit you would ever meet, right?
Yeah.
I tell people this all the time. If I could bottle Brenna's spirit and sell it to people, number one, I would probably only sell it for like 25 cents because I would sell enough that I would make millions of dollars. But the world would be truly a better place because when she's around, it's like everybody is just like free spirit, free roaming. And I hear like often like she's like your dad. So sort of like I think back sometimes like that's how your dad was with you guys. He may have been tough on you sometimes and may have yelled at you as the middle child, which Meg and I like to bond over being middle children, where people tell us middle child syndrome doesn't exist, but we're two of the prime examples of middle children. And I hate to say it, and I'm not going to. We would fuck you up, because middle children don't fuck around. So
Nope.
So again, I'm excited for the book, and it's going to be great. So, what themes or messages are you hoping to convey through your book?
I think with just, grieving in general, it's not only just giving someone else, that
Outlet, maybe?
Yeah, kind of like that outlet. Like, they're not alone. They have that place to be. But it's also like going through all the motions and, trying to figure out how to navigate it and all of it. Anger, denial, happiness, laughing, like just a little bit of everything.
And keeping the spirit alive that's no longer here.
Yeah.
And one of the toughest things could be is when you think about putting out your book, when it comes out, think about the people that don't have anybody. Exactly. Right? Nobody's around. Mm-hmm. They're by themselves. They're in a house all by themselves, whether they're 35 years old or 65 years old, and they're dealing with this on their own. They open up your book and they see some poems and they say, wow, a 20-year-old girl wrote this. So much courage, so much strength to be able to overcome losing someone like your dad, losing someone like your grandparents, but also showing people that it can be done.
Yeah. That,
sometimes when people pass, it's when you're in the moment and it happens, you feel like the world's coming to an end. Mm-hmm. It's over. Yeah. But you have to overcome and you have to live like I like to do. My dad gone 16 years. I do union work just like my dad, carried on the profession that he did, just like you. You're writing like your dad did, in getting the message out there to people that keeping, the loved ones that have passed in that are now in spirit, keeping them in conversation and talking about them. And, the way we do that is when, family gatherings or through cookouts or just having fun and talking about them. And, it's tough sometimes though. Like you may hear a song that reminds you of your dad and you start crying, right? And you may, hear like strumming on the guitar and it thinks of your dad. Or you may see a writing from, some of his famous poets that he loved. Meg and everyone like to talk about her dad and say that if he had his way, he would have lived in a tent out in the middle of the woods.
Fuck yeah.
But he was just a different type of person. And, very special to all you guys. You guys all had a special relationship. Mm-hmm. He had a special relationship with all his kids. And, Meg's keeping his legacy alive and putting it into print now.
I think one of another thing or goal I have with the book is, just like an achievement of my own, like letting people know like, hey, I am 20 years old and I just published and wrote my own book. Like you can do what you need to do too. Like don't
give up.
Yeah, exactly.
And through, death, a loved one, don't give up. Mm-hmm. The day may seem dark, it may seem like the tunnel's closing in, but there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And your light at the end of the tunnel is writing this book and getting it out there to people to stress to them the importance of grief. And it's okay to cry. Mm-hmm. I'm 41 years old. I'm a man. I still cry.
Yeah.
I
tell my boyfriend and my brothers, cry as much as you want.
It doesn't make you less or more of a woman or man if you cry. It just shows.
I think it makes you stronger. I think you look stronger when you cry.
and it's you truly care.
Yeah.
You know, I
Absolutely.
said, 16 years after my dad, I'm still crying.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes people will tell you get over it. No, I'm not over it. That was my father. That was
Exactly,
my relationship with him, not
yeah.
yours. You know? So how have your friends and family supported you during this writing journey?
Honestly, I have received way more support than I thought I would. I have, friends, family, my amazing boyfriend. I have my siblings,
Jared.
I wasn't really, planning on, publishing my pieces. But now that I have, I've seen an endless amount of support from people, even if it's just reading a poem or two. And then, seeing them itch for more is also what gets me excited too, where they're like, okay, read me another one. I'm like, no, you gotta wait. But
you keep them on the edge of the seat waiting for the next one.
Yeah.
I remember when we were here for Sean's graduation party, and you read that,
Mm-hmm.
and you had that video about your dad, and it was just so touching. There wasn't a dry eye in the house, but it's small things like that you're keeping your dad's memory going.
Absolutely.
You know?
I praise him for teaching me and giving me the words to be a good writer, and pushing me to do this, whether he was doing it intentionally or not. I'm truly inspired by him, and not even me, my brother. I mean, we have a lot of great writers in this house, and I give all the props to my dad for that one.
Yeah, we have Sean, who's a writer, producer, director. He's a jack of all trades. He I'm a little upset at him, but we're not going to get into it on the podcast because he's not pursuing Broadway where he should be.
We got to get him on Broadway.
We got to get him on Broadway. This kid, when he's on the stage, he's in his element. And he's going through, a little bit right now because he just graduated high school and he doesn't know what he's going to do, but he's writing his own musical right now, and he's upstairs writing some jingles. He's probably going to bang on the wall if he hears us. But, it is. It's the talent from your dad.
Yeah, and that's a big part of life too. And I mean, I took a gap year for 1 to 2 years. I mean, no one should be expected to know what they want to do right out of the gate. I mean, everyone I know who goes to, college and this and that is like, oh, I'm going in undecided. Oh, I'm switching schools. Oh, I'm switching majors. And it's like, take your time.
Exactly.
You don't even have to go to college. So.
No, I'm going into college I'm undecided, so it's going to cost me $60,000 to figure out what I'm doing. Look, I'm 41 years old. I still don't know what the fuck I want to do.
Exactly.
I've been lucky enough, gainfully employed 20 years. I work. Is it what I want to do? No, but the union side of things I love, so I stay with it. But
absolutely.
You're never too excuse me, you're never too old to start fresh. But Sean, he has the talent. We're hopefully going to get him on someday.
Oh yeah,
and he can speak about what he does. But Meg's very talented. She's doing her writing. Friends, family, the online community have supported her while she's still writing her book. And this is a little bit redundant, but have you shared any parts of your book with others for feedback? And if so, how has that feedback influenced your writing? So I can answer that. Obviously she just said you've shared it at family functions, at different events, and people love it. But have you teased it on the internet? Have you teased it anywhere to put up to see what people say?
No, I haven't even. I know. I haven't even, teased like a poem or two. And, I'm definitely going to get out there soon. I mean, I got two months to the date, actually. Today is 8/14. We got 2 months until it's out.
2 months until it's out.
If you follow my Instagram page, Meg Sullivan Books, I'll be able to tease everything. You might be able to hear a poem or two. You might be able to get the title release a little early. We got a lot of different things coming. But
yeah, so you still have a title, but
yes.
you're gonna drop it. You're gonna drop it when the time is right.
Yes, yeah.
Which is great. Which I think keeps people on the edge of their seat. But I think the greatest thing is that you've been able to not only get feedback from family and friends, but it's all positive feedback. And it's not people just blowing smoke up your ass. It's people, and I've been here.
I was going to say, wouldn't say I've read it like specifically for feedback. I kind of just read it when the moment's right. And I also think that is really important too, making sure the timing's right and everything. But I can, not to, toot my own horn, but it's been very authentic feedback. I can truly see it no matter who I'm reading it to. Everyone has their own story. Everyone has a little bit of something, and I'm extremely grateful for this authentic and positive feedback that I've been receiving when I do, throw a poem or two out there.
And I can tell you, like I said, we were here and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. So authentic wise, you can't fake a room full of 25 people. And it wasn't just older people. There was young kids there too. Yeah. And they had tears in their eyes, just so moved by the poems.
Yeah, and it moves me too, as the authors,
Just, does it move you to write it and to see people's reactions? Both?
I was gonna say, I think in both ways, absolutely, and especially, reading it out loud, knowing that I wrote that.
Right from the heart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Knowing that I wrote that and seeing people's reactions, and not only, kind of boost my ego a little bit in all the right and respectful ways, but but
it pushes you too.
Yeah, it definitely pushes me to write more.
Yeah, to write more and keep going. And then also with the voice of your dad in your head telling you keep going.
Absolutely.
Keep going, Meg.
Yeah.
Which is, how has writing this book changed you personally?
I think it's changed me for the better. I would like to say, sitting there and like having to write it out, sometimes it kind of like hits you a little harder, but giving myself this goal to reach is just going to be an achievement for myself, but also, just writing in general is something that, I have a love for. And,
I think one of the things too is that, like you're talking about in this book of poems of grief, you're writing it out authentically, but you're also doing it alone. So you're grieving yourself and putting pen to paper while grieving.
Exactly. I'm living it as I'm writing it.
And it's going to be coming out on the 14th of October.
Yeah.
And this is right from the heart. This isn't, hey, the rainbow is blue, the sky is yellow. No, this is some deep shit that you're going through the process. And you're going through that process of writing the book while still grieving. We stopped a bit there. Sorry about that. We were talking about rainbows and losing loved ones, and all of a sudden there was a big there was a big thunderbolt. I saw the thunderbolt. No, there was a lightning that scared the shit out of Meg because it was her dad saying hello. We were just out back taking a quick photo of the sky. The storm's coming in. It was our loved ones saying, we hear you down there. We hear you. Whether you believe in that stuff or not, but, I'm a firm believer of, our loved ones.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's always listening to you.
Always listening. They're here with us, Maybe not, they're not here in the physical sense, but the spirit world does exist. I don't care what anyone thinks. We can get into the spirit world on future podcasts. I was going to say
I can sit on that for hours. So I got my angel numbers.
Exactly. And you guys, like I said to you before about Meg, we're on a serious note here, but she's going to be joining us hopefully maybe, once a month or every 2 weeks to come on the podcast. We're going to be talking about everything. The spirit world is one good one where she's had multiple readings. I've had readings where my dad, her dad have came through in my readings, and her dad's obviously grandparents have came through in her reading. It's a topic for another day. So we're going to get back to the book though. So what have you learned about yourself through the whole process of writing your first book?
I've learned a lot, actually. I think the biggest thing is I've learned patience. Going back to, even though it comes pretty naturally to me, having that writer's block and stuff, and, giving myself that time to, actually, write authentic pieces and, not rush it. Even if, it doesn't end up going the way I want it to go, I want it to be authentic. I want it to be real. I want it to be, words that, aren't just being thrown in my mouth. I want it to be exactly how I picture it to be. Yeah. So I think patience is the biggest thing.
And almost like, like you said, so how do you go through the process of like you're like me. You're like, I like to be in bed early sometimes,
Yep.
but not always with my schedule. I'm not able to. But say you wake up at like 1 o'clock in the morning and you jot down 2 sentences. The next morning when you wake up, how do you pick up from there? Like, do you have to think about it? Do you have to go back through it? Or do you already know where you're going to run with the 2 sentences that you had written?
It's
in the middle
almost
of the
like
night?
I know exactly where I want it to go. Sometimes, I'll just jot it down and I'll write my 1 or 2 sentences, and then I'll literally write blah, blah, blah. And I'll go in and I'll throw another sentence or 2 in, and then it's exactly how I need it to be.
And I love how you say blah, blah, blah. Because she's not giving you guys anything from the book. She's not giving you any, hey, we're going to give you 2 sentences from the book. Nope, we're going to give you blah, blah, because it's going to be released on 10/14/2025, and you're going to have to go out and get it.
Yeah.
But we're going to have her on. She's going to be talking about it. And, do you have any plans for what you want to write next? I know we've discussed you may have some other books in the works. We almost just lost power there.
I know.
So the spirits are definitely coming through hard right now.
Oh, yeah.
And are you focused, or are you just focused solely on finishing this book first? Or are you sort of like have a lot going on where you have your first book you're writing with, your second and third book in hand and you're thinking about it, where you're writing for them as well, or just focused on this book?
So I think the biggest thing when I did start kind of writing a lot of different pieces was that if I put all of my different pieces with different themes into one book, it just seemed kind of jumbled. So I kind of started dividing those pieces into grief, into love, into, stories about myself.
She's teasing you guys right there. She's letting you know. I heard grief, love. Love might be the second topic of the book, you know? Finding yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I had it all kind of jumbled into like one little notebook, and I started dividing it up a little bit just to, give those certain topics their space and time.
Their own due.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And with grief is your first one because you're still going through it, and finding yourself, you're still going through it. And love, you're still going through it with Jared, with family, with your mom, with your siblings, it's a give and take some days. Some days it's great, some days it's not. Yeah. But, we love each other.
Exactly, and that's life.
That's life, yeah. They say you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. And that's true. Not that I would change anything. I wouldn't change anything. I would pick the family that I have. I love my brothers and sisters and my mom and dad. And I wouldn't pick another girlfriend than Jen. I love her. Meg laughs at me and tells me I'm crazy, and so isn't she. But you have to be. We're crazy in love. Yeah. What can I say?
Everyone's crazy in their own ways.
Exactly. And everyone deals with grief in their own ways. And you're going to be expressing yourself throughout the book of how you dealt with it and how you're dealing with it currently.
Absolutely.
And hopefully you can lend, we're going to have her linked on Instagram. We're going to send the link out. We're going to have some behind the scenes here that we've been shooting here at Studio 4 in Franklin. And we're get the word out. We're going to show you Meg. We're going to show you maybe some insights if she'll let me, take some pictures of her little coveted book. Not the writings though, because we're not giving you anything yet. That comes on the 14th.
It'll come. I promise. I'll throw some teasers at you guys, but you have to follow the Instagram page. You have to follow the Instagram.
You're gonna see it at Uncle Jimmy's Podcast on Facebook, on Instagram, at Uncle Jimmy's Pod on X.
Yep.
You're gonna see it. I'm gonna be tagging her. Hopefully, she's sticking with Instagram is what she has. Do you have Facebook? Or personal?
I was going to say, not for my book yet, but, we can kind of link it all.
Yeah, we can link it all. But, do you want to just keep it strictly with the book, or do you want people to have your personal as well? Because you may have some people that may reach out and, want to have give you a little feedback, or some people that may be grieving as well when they hear this episode that may want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you're willing and able, we're going to put it out there. We're going to put her personal. We're going to put her book, Instagram up, and we're going to go from there.
Yeah.
So next, what are your long-term goals as an author? I know you had mentioned, and I didn't mean to cut you off. I know you had mentioned it's not about making money.
Yep.
I feel from the conversation that we've had that it's more of you want to help people.
Absolutely.
While helping yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Which is great, which is, as a world, we should be doing is helping each other out through it all, because we only have each other.
Exactly.
You know, there's so much war going on in the world. There's so much, you know, you have a drug epidemic going on,
Yeah.
mental health going on that we're going to touch in a future episode about mental health awareness. You know, Meg and I both suffer from anxiety and depression and a lot of different stuff that we're going to get into. But, you know, there's so much going on in the world. And you have turned your focus to writing your first book on grief. What are your long-term goals as an author, Meg?
I don't even have like set long-term goals. I think going back to what we've both mentioned a couple times, it's just kind of getting my work out there, and I want to be able to publish a lot of different themes and, you know, life decisions and things that just happen in life, you know.
Authentic things.
Exactly. I just want to, you know, get it out there. So no matter what it is, no matter how long it takes, I can't even like put a specific timeline on it. But, you know, no matter what the topic is, no matter what the life choice is, no matter what happens, you know, I want to just be able to get my work kind of out there.
Yeah. You know, to help people and to help yourself. That's the biggest thing. You know, long-term goal, I look at it as an author for you is you're going through the grieving process, you know, with your family, with yourself as well, in your writing to get through the grieving process. So you can follow Meg at M Sullivan Books on Instagram. That's one word, M Sullivan Books. Go look for her, search for her, follow her, give her a like, share it with your friends because big things are coming. So Meg, looking back, is there anything you would do differently in your writing journey so far?
I don't have any regrets at the moment. I, you know, like the steady pace I'm going at. I like that, you know, it's very natural for me. I think that, you know, if I just kind of made it up and I was like, you know what, I'm going to write a book, I think it would be 10 times harder. So I'm very, you know, thankful that, you know, I have that authenticity side of it to where, you know, I can just sit there and write and write and write.
So you don't feel any pressure with the deadline of the book coming 10/14/2024?
No.
How far are you completed the book? Are you 75%, 60, 50%, 80%? Or it doesn't even matter what percent you're at. You know the date. You're going to get it out because you have so much writing still inside of you because you're going through the process.
Yeah, I think that's more where I'm at. It's not even, you know, I can't even kind of pinpoint where the halfway point is, you know. There could be a book with only 20 pages, but, you know, that feels complete to me. There could be a book with 80 pages, and that feels complete to me. I just feel like I can't even pinpoint that, you know, middle point or that 60% just because of, you know, it will be done when it's done, you know.
And you'll have that feeling.
Exactly.
That you know, this is what I want in there. This is what I choose to have in there. And like you said, it could be 20 pages, it could be 40, it could be 80, it could be 160. It's a book of poetry of the first book. No title yet.
No title.
It's going to be on grief.
I was going to say it's coming soon.
It's coming soon. Like I said, follow her. So go on the Instagram, Facebook, follow her. And last question, Meg. What advice would you give to someone who is thinking about writing their first book?
I think the biggest thing is find out what you're actually writing about. Don't just do it just to do it. I'm a poet. I have always liked poetry. I find therapy and peace in writing poetry. I also find it a lot easier for me personally to write and to read. A lot of the books I actually read for fun are poetry books, which also inspired me. I think the biggest thing is just find out what you want to write about and then just do it.
Find out what you're passionate about.
Absolutely.
Find out what you want to write about.
Yeah.
And go from there.
And just do it. It's a lot easier than you think it is. And when you find something that you're passionate about and that you truly want to write about, it'll come naturally, 100%.
Perfect. So we're going to wrap it up. But again, the book is coming out 10/14/2025. We're so excited for it. I haven't even heard anything from it yet. So, and again, we're going to follow Meg at M Sullivan Books, all one word on Instagram. And your Facebook is what? Meg Sullivan?
Yeah, Meg Sullivan.
Meg Sullivan. Well, if it's not that, we're going to make sure we link it.
We'll figure it out.
We will tag her. So go follow at Uncle Jimmy's podcast.
Yeah, follow Uncle Jimmy's podcast on
everywhere. And we're streaming everywhere. And I want to give a big shout out to at Ferg's Custom Cards. We're going to be doing a giveaway with Ferg He's the sponsor of the show. He's a buddy of mine that lives up in Canada, and he creates custom cards, custom trading cards. Whether it's an actor, whether it's a sports star, or even, he did one which you love, Meg, and I'll show you the photo of it. He made a card of the car from Trailer Park Boys. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
my God.
And it's funny, right? Ferg, who's a buddy of mine, we met playing Xbox, which is hilarious, years ago. But we always used to play Xbox and watch Trailer Park Boys. So I'd be watching it here in the States. He'd be watching it. We'd be talking about shitstorms are brewing and the shit rolls downhill.
Oh,
Randy. Yeah. For people that haven't seen that show, you got to go check it out at the Trailer Park Boys on
Fucking
Netflix.
Hilarious.
Absolutely hilarious. It is so funny. So in closing, go follow Meg at M Sullivan Books. And a big shout out to Fergs at Fergs Custom Cards on Facebook and Instagram. We're going to be doing a giveaway. I'm going to be getting Ferg coming up on the podcast so we can talk more about what he does and specializes in. But we're going to be doing a giveaway. We haven't figured it out yet. Ferg and I are going to wrap our heads around it. It may take us a year to come up with the idea because we, there's a shitstorm brewing, so we don't know what's coming. So we're going to be giving a giveaway. We're going to be doing a giveaway. So I appreciate all you guys. Like, share, follow. Go follow Meg. Follow at Ferg's Custom Cards. And follow at Uncle Jimmy's Podcast.
Thank you, Uncle Jimmy's Podcast, for having me.
No problem at all. And like I said, Meg's going to be coming around, joining us, from time to time. And I can't wait till you guys can see the funny side of Meg. And
absolutely. I promise I'm not all serious, but I am very excited about the book. So thank you again.
And we're all excited about the book, and we can't wait for it to come out. And as I like to say, peace and love, Uncle Jimmy out.